Well, hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 30 of March Comes In Like a Lion. Oh my gosh. So I I was glad last week we got a little bit of a break. I love Hina and Ray's development. Don't get me wrong. The Hina and Ray arc is amazing, but it is like gut-wrenching and it drains your soul. It drains your soul, and so I was very glad that, we decided to go focus back on Ray's matches. We met Hachiya. Hachiya was great. Hachiya was a fun time, and I think we needed that levity. My fear is that the show is going to be like, well, now you've had levity, let's go back, and I was like, ah! So I feel like that's going to happen, but we also have simultaneously Ray moving forward in the newcomer tournament. He's going to the finals. We also have him doing his rank matches that he's got to do to keep up with his rank. So I'll be very curious to see, like, who makes it in the final. Did Nikaido make it past his semifinal round into the final to be with Ray or not? We'll have to see. And then just go from there. So I don't know. But if we do go back to Hina in any capacity, I think that we're going to have to throughout the rest of this season, because as the show's done a really, really good job of pointing out to us, this is not we'll just solve the problem and move on. No, it very much is this is a life-changing moment, and Hina's life is not going to be the same after this, so what do we do? But everybody in the Discord has been really cool about these last couple episodes, talking about just getting out of high school and that mentality and how it changes through adulthood. And yeah, there's always going to be people that suck. Always. It's just the nature. There's so many humans on the planet. Yeah, there's going to be some bad apples. It's just figuring out how do you handle those bad apples and what do you do. So, and I feel like Ray is trying to figure out what he can do to help her, and doesn't realize that him just being there as support for her is already so much. And Akari can kind of attest to that too, because he's been helping her work through her anxiety as well. So I really appreciate it. I've read all the comments. We've been talking in the Discord about it. I really appreciate it. I'm just super excited to get into more March Comes In Like a Lion, because every week I have to brace myself. I'm like, you might cry. You're just going to have to brace yourself for that. But it's a good feeling though, right? It's a good feeling. So anyway, I do want to give a quick shout out over to the philanthropy tier over on Patreon, because y'all are amazing and y'all help support me. So I want to give a shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Alexandra Q, to Be Happy, to Bryant Reed, to Destiny Marie, to Dana, to Danger Zone, to Damage 3245, as well as Danny Donmai, to Devorin, as well as to Ichu, Eric, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, as well as Lyndon, Elfreya, Ivan, Matthew Palfiniere, Murphew, Nicholas, Nameless Monster, No Nickname, Sunspots Trails, Shimoyama, Translucent Men, and I think that's everybody. Thank you all so much, along with all of you on Patreon and YouTube that support me. I really appreciate it. All of my love. All right. So I'm super excited to dive into this episode and see exactly what we get. So we are going to not waste any more time. We are going to start, if I can get my headphones correctly, March Comes In Like a Lion. And we're going to look at episode 30 here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I'm trying to think, okay, I do this every week, but I always forget the numbers because we're doing 30. So we had 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Oh, it's the rule of 8. Oh, today is the rule of 8 for the cour. Oh, no big deal. No big deal. I mean, season 1 had 2 cours. We had 2 OPs, 2 EDs, and there were 2 rules of 8, which were both really good. So I'm assuming this is one of them. But this season has been so personal compared to, like, it felt like there was an overarching sense of Ray, not versus the world, but just dealing with overarching bigger issues around him. And maybe not. Maybe it just seemed that way because Ray was making it that way because he is kind of a diva. But This feels so much more intimate of a season, honestly. A lot more interpersonal, so we'll see. Hmm. Oh, that in shot of Ray grasping at the butterfly and missing. So good. Midday moon. Ooh. Like the moon that's there, but you can't see it. Oh my god! Oh, Hayashida! Oh my god. Hayashida! Oh. Oh my god! Oh, good. I I'm glad that yes, I'm glad Hayashida feels like me. Oh, has Ray been crying about it? Oh. And wow, that storm from the beginning. Uh-huh. Oh. Uh-huh. He's like, I'm not like Hina, so I don't know how to help her. Oh. Oh. Well, they're not a total stranger to them. Oh. Ah! Ah! Like a damn salary man. Which sometimes pisses me off. Yes. Yes. Ooh. Ooh. Nice. Oh. Yeah, not the only option. Yeah. Mm. It would not go far at all, probably. Not like this, no. Yeah. Yeah. What about him? We don't know anything about him. Oh. And he just left. Oh. Shit. Damn. Damn. But it clearly means everything to her. Damn. Right, no. She's just trying to disassociate so it doesn't break her heart. He's gonna go to the ring for her! Yes! No, no, no! Ah! Oh my god! Yes! my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Well, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Was planning to do just that. Oh. Oh. A pride as a teacher. Well, accused you or pointing out the obvious? Oh. Oh, you poor Kiriyama, you look so rough. Ah. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. Oh. Is do what you can, one thing at a time. Yes. So are these just some of his ranked matches? This isn't the newcomer tournament. One step at a time. Nice. Good, 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 good. Oh. Okay, good, Ray. Good job. Yeah, Yokomizo. Mmm. Oh, Nikaido didn't win. Oh. Oh, poor Nikaido! Don't be following in Shimada's footsteps! Not like that! Yeah. He didn't follow through. Oh, Nikaido. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Oh, no. Nikaido, sweetheart. Oh, no. And he doesn't know about his condition, does he? Yeah, shit. Uh-huh. Mm. Well, that's not true. Oh! Well, he needs to find out where he is. Yeah, go after him. Be like, hey. That limousine with a bed or whatever, yeah. Oh. He's like, I'm his friend. I deserve to know. Oh. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh. He didn't like to be asked about it. Yeah. Hmm. You gonna tell him or not? Hmm. Chairman. Hmm. Talk over dinner about it. He's already had a steam bun. Well, no, this is a different match, so never mind. His little brother. Oh, good flashback. Oh. Clearly not Soya. Oh. And he was sick too, so he could relate. Ah. A fourth grader. Oh. Oh. Your big brother. Oh. Oh, did you now? Uh-huh. Wow. Oh. Hmm. Oh. Wow. Hmm. Oh. Hmm. And them all just assuming that about him, but not knowing his condition. Wow, that's not the point. Of course, since he was the polar opposite. Show, you're gonna make me cry. Wow, no. And that's where he met Ray. Oh my god. And he lost to Ray. Oh. Yeah, him and Ray. Oh. Mm. Oh. 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 Wow. Oh, show. Wow. Ah! Yeah. Oh, that's his house, yeah. Oh. Wow, this big house. Oh. 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 Wow. Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh. 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 Oh my gosh. Mm. Yeah. Oh. Wasn't shogi. Oh my god. Wow, and then it cuts to that. Oh. Shut up. Unstable is a good way to say it. Oh. Hmm. Oh. Oh wow. Oh. But we're not gonna find out. We're gonna watch that, right? Uh. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Wow. Like a fireball. Well, don't make it sound like he's died. Oh. Damn it, show. Damn it, show. Quit making me cry! I can't go like 3 weeks without crying in this show. Ah. Damn. Damn it. Ah. Well, you know. Wow, I am. Do it for Nikaido. Ah. Oh. I mean, I want Nikaido to not be dead. I'm sure he's not, but the way that they ended this episode, it was like, oh. This discussion's gonna make me cry. I can already tell. Ugh. I can already tell. Oh, man. I'm gonna have to pull it together for this discussion. March. I knew by the ED, I'm like, girl, you're gonna have to get it together for this discussion. Because what a sad episode. I was like, and we didn't even go back to Hina. Now it's Nikaido. And I was like, oh, we finally get backstory. We finally get backstory with Nikaido and Shimada's relationship. It's so good to see Shimada again. I'm so glad he's here. But we're going to talk about this whole thing and everything that we learned this episode. This episode had a lot of exposition, a lot of explaining woven in with Hayashida being fired up. Like, I'm so glad he was. But yeah, so I want to talk about the end card before we get started, so I don't forget about it. This is the end card. It's a really good end card. I like it. It is by Hajime Ueda, who, if you don't know Hajime Ueda, they did the series Fooly Cooly, which, here's the thing, maybe way down the road on my channel, I would like to rewatch Fooly Cooly. I remember watching it back in high school, and I was like, I don't quite understand all this, but it seems like a coming of age story, but I don't get all the references. Okay. And I watched it and thought it was neat, and then I forgot about it. So I know that there's like a satellite that comes out of a boy's head. That's mostly what I remember, and a girl with a guitar, and there's some sexual innuendos. That's mainly what I remember of Fooly Cooly. Maybe that's all I need to remember of Fooly Cooly. But I need to rewatch it at some point. Is what I need to do. But this art style, I was like, it also, I don't know, it said that they also do the Monogatari series, which so many people have recommended Monogatari, and I was like, well, let's get through one long series before we get to another, because that's a long series. But this art style is from it as well. And I want to say, with Puella Magi Madoka Magica, this looks kind of like the style of the witches in that series. All three of these series are done by Shaft, so it could just be the animation style that makes it look similar to that. But what I like about this end card is kind of what it's representing. Like, you have Akari, it's the three sisters, And you have Akari who just looks like she's in distress. She's like, I have to be a mom. I have to deal with all this. We'll talk about the dad. I was afraid about that with the dad. And I'm like, okay, now we're confirming some things. But she's just like, I have to do all this. This sucks. Like, I don't have a young adulthood. I have to instantly go into parenthood, and these aren't even my kids. Like, Akari just looks like she's just stressed. Hina is mad. Hina is angry. She's furious. She doesn't know why this is happening. She's just full of all this anger. And then Momo is just like, I don't know what to do, but I'm mad on your behalf. And she's just kind of like in the same boat. So it's like Akari looks sad. Hina looks angry and furious. And Momo looks like the way her eyebrows turn up, it looks like a mixture of between, like, it seems more like confusion. Like, I don't know exactly what to feel, but I know you two are upset and it makes me upset, is the vibe that I get from them. So I thought this was a really, really good end card. So this episode is called Midday Moon, which Midday Moon, the moon never disappears. It's always there. You just don't see it because the sun is out, and the sun blinds you from seeing the moon, and it overshadows it. I think that was a really good representation of a lot of aspects of this episode. The idea that Nikaido's illness is always there, whether you realize it or notice it or not. It's always there. It's always with Nikaido. He can't escape it. It's incurable. Apparently, he just doesn't want to deteriorate anymore. But that's a big possibility. So we'll talk about Nikaido. But that's part of the Midday Moon. Then the idea of Akari, the presence or the absence of their father is always there. Akari knows it, and she's reminded of it every time stuff like this happens, that she's by herself. She doesn't have someone to support her. So that's like the Midday Moon. And just the idea that all of these problems that people face on a daily basis, a lot of times, there's the phrase, be kind to others because you never know what they're dealing with. That's very present in this episode. It's like, nope, you don't know what trauma and struggles everyone around you is going through. So you can't really judge them necessarily because you don't know what they're going through. And once you do find out, it's like, well, what do you do about that? So I thought this was a very aptly named part of the episode. And then Adventures, just talking about, oh my God, I'm going to try to get through that part of the discussion without crying because I was like, show. But just the idea of Nikaido not being able to do what other kids do and wanting to be challenged. And Nikaido's whole thing is wanting to be not recognized as a spoiled brat, but he wants to be recognized as a person. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, I want to be able to do something that challenges me because nothing else I do in my life is challenging me or bringing out my humanity. And Shogi's the one thing that does it. And he's like, I don't want that to be taken from me. He's like, when I play Shogi, people don't see me as someone with an illness. They can see me as a threat. And he's like, I can live my life through this game and live through and experience all the hardships another human would experience. And he's like, I can't have that taken away from me. And it's like, which we'll talk about, but I was like, damn it, show. Showing that even someone as upbeat and positive as Nikaido is going through so much and is probably upbeat and positive in spite of it. But yeah, so I want to give a shout out to Hayashida. Last episode when we found out about that homeroom teacher, I was so mad and I was like, do I express my anger the way that I want to? Because, we don't know what that teacher's going through. And then Hayashida validates everything I was thinking. I was like, yes, vindication. So Hayashida just being like, when I get my hands on that situation, I'm going to go down there and give her a piece of my mind. And Ray's like, no, don't make this worse. I feel like Ray just wanted to talk to Hayashida being like, well, what would you do in this situation? And Hayashida's like, why aren't you all just more pissed off about it? And I'm like, yes. So I love that Hayashida is like, when I get down there and talk to her. And Ray's grown so much in this series. Ray has grown so much. And this episode is such a beautiful illustration of how much Ray has grown. Because he's like, I want to go too. He's like, I don't know what to say. I love that Ray is vocalizing so much more because in season 1, Ray would hide behind a wall and he'd be monologuing all of this and we, the audience, would know how he feels, but none of the other characters would know. So then it was frustrating because you're like, well, Ray, if you just told people about this, they'd be able to help you. But he wouldn't do it, right? Because of either guilt or shame or his pride or whatever. And now Ray has figured out, he's like, I need to talk to people. I need to tell them what I think and get that out there so that maybe they can help me. And that's exactly what happens here. He's like, I want to go too, And I like that that kind of calms down Hayashida. I like that Hayashida like calms down in that moment where he's like, oh, okay, yeah, right. I'm an adult. This kid's having troubles. And he's like, but I don't have the knowledge. And I love that we go back to the storm from season 1, the image of Ray, like the iconic black and white where he's in the storm, because it literally is Ray being like, back then, I didn't have the knowledge of these situations, so I felt like I was going in blindly. And he's like, before I would just trudge in, not knowing my place, not knowing. And I think that also applies to like Goto and Kyoko, where he's like, you know, Ray just stormed into that situation, literally, like the black and white stormy image of himself. He stormed into that situation with Goto and Kyoko and was like, hey, leave my sister alone, all this, without knowing what the situation was and without knowing all of the dynamics between the two of them or the situation surrounding it. So here, he's like, I don't want to walk in with that same problem. He's like, I actually want to change and know what to do before I get involved, because then I don't want to make matters worse. And then I love that Ray compares himself to Hina, where he says, you know, when I was bullied, my solution was I would just pretend everything was fine. Like the dog with the cup and the fire around him, everything's fine. And he's like, I would just go isolate myself and avoid the situation. And he's like, I could go with the flow. I didn't bother to struggle. I just endured it, went with the flow, and buried myself into shogi as an escape. He's like, but that's what I did. He's like, Hina's not like me. She may play shogi against me for fun and to humor me. He's like, but shogi is not her escape. And he's like, she is not an introvert like me who can isolate themselves and be okay. He's like, she's an extrovert. She likes being around people. So this is affecting her in a different way. He's like, I don't know what to tell her to help her because she's not like me. And I think that to come to that conclusion and realize that about yourself it takes a lot of emotional maturity to do that. And not everybody can do that. So I respect Ray so much in this moment for admitting that. And he's like, you know, I tried my best. I've been trying my best to win these matches to get money to help them in case if it was needed. But, you know, he's like, their family is not the type. I do agree that their family is not, the Kaminatos are not the type that would accept money. But when he says he's a total stranger, I'm like, bitch, you're not a total stranger. You're practically adopted into the family at this point. It's like, but they wouldn't take your money because that's not them, you know. And then she talks about getting a bruise, but the way that, I don't know if it means that she's been like hurt at school or if that's just from something. So I don't know. They don't elaborate on that point. And then that's when he's like, okay, Hayashida, I'll go take you out for food. I'll do anything you want. Just help me out. And I like the Hayashida. That's when he bumps him on the noggin. And he's like, okay, stop. He's like, you're not supposed to be like this. He's like, you're not a damn salary man. He's like, you've been working hard. You're making more money than me, which makes me mad. I like that he says that. He's like, maybe you're making more money than me playing shogi, which I'm a little pissed off about as the teacher, but that's beyond me. That's so funny. But he's like, but this is a school and you're just a second-year high school student. He's like, I'm a teacher. Don't underestimate a teacher. I've got some authority in this. Let me help you and flex that. And I really do like what he said about Hina not only talking to her homeroom teacher. I loved that because, yeah, that's the thing. A lot of times we think that there's just one solution. Or they're like, well, I talked to this person and they didn't help me, so nobody else will. And that's not true. Like if this one teacher, it's kind of like if you go to the doctor and you get, you know, kind of a fishy feeling or you don't feel like you're getting the right information, you go to another doctor and you say, I need a second opinion about this. So I think Hayashida is very correct that Hina should change the person she's talking to. If that one teacher is not helping her, for whatever reason, whether it's interclass politics or whatever, then she needs to go to another teacher, go to a different teacher, go to a superintendent, go to somebody higher up, like go somewhere for a second opinion to see if that helps. But I also agree that he's like, you know, while the homeroom teacher isn't the only option, it's okay to talk to another teacher. I do agree. I wish I could read what all that paper said, but I think it's just saying what he's telling Ray, but I wish I could read that paper and what it translated to. So if any of you translate that paper in the comments, that'd be awesome. But I do agree with Hayashida that he's like, I don't think talking to the bully's parents in this situation is going to do much. Because it's not like the girl in class is physically hurting Hina and there's something that can be reprimanded there. And I know that we all know as the audience that what the girl is doing is bullying to a level that deserves punishment, probably, or at least reprimanding from her parents. But her parents weren't there. They've not seen what's been going on. They can't see how her daughter acts. Her daughter's going to downplay it. And then they're just going to get mad if people say that her daughter's doing something wrong when they don't have proof of it. And so I definitely think that talking to the parents is not going to get you anywhere. It's not good. But he points out that if they do have to speak to the parents, then yeah, he's like, I could see why Akari would feel really helpless because she's the sister taking care of. And the problem is, even in modern times, even in the world that we live in, where the idea of the nuclear family is so outdated from the 1950s, like that's such an outdated thing that families come in all shapes and sizes. I can say from where I am in the world, like in the Midwest in the US, there is a stigma that is still attached to certain family structures. Like, for example, whenever you hear about somebody that, oh, they were raised by their grandparents. Sometimes that is because the parents have died or something bad has happened to the parents. But sometimes it's because of situations that have stigma attached to them. Like, oh, the parents weren't fit to raise the child, so they went and lived with the grandparents. Well, what does that say about the parents? And then what does that say about the child? There is a stigma that is often stereotyped and very, very wrong that gets attached to those family structures. And so I would feel afraid for Akari if she walked into that scenario with those parents and those parents are like, oh, well, she's just a girl raised by her sister. They clearly don't have a good family dynamic and they don't have a good family structure. And we as the audience know that's just bullshit. Like they have an amazing family structure, but that could be the unfortunate stigma that's placed on Akari if she walks into that scenario alone without help. So I definitely get where Hayashida is coming from, is that might not be the best scenario to challenge the parents. So finally, after all this time, 30 episodes later, we find out a teensy little bit about the dad. Because that's been the thing. The dad's never been brought up. Nobody talks about him. We don't speak about the father. And I figured that it was because he was estranged and wasn't in the picture. Because, you know, if he died, they would have at least said something like about the mom and the grandma. But since they don't, it's like, oh, well, he's not there. He's not in the picture. They're like, what about the dad? What's he doing? And Ray's like, well, I asked about that. And it was a very short conversation from only Akari. And she didn't want to talk about it. She's like, he told us he got a new... What did she say there? We back up there. It's not a very pleasant story, so I'll just give you the basics. Which means I don't want to... It's code for I don't want to talk about this because it deeply affects me. She's like, so here's the basics as she's making the tea. She's like, he told us he got a new girlfriend and then just left us. And now he's living in a new home and has another child. And that's that. She's like, oh, that's right. We have bean jam pancakes. Do you want some? And Ray's like, shit. Yeah, thanks. You don't have to say any more. So yeah. And the worst part about that is such a heartbreaking situation. Because Akari's like, yeah, my dad, that for 19 years, until my mom died, for 19 years, my dad had been in this household. We don't know what his personality's like. But you get this impression that if he left 3 kids that were grieving the loss of their mom to go with a new girlfriend and had a child with her and now lives this life without them, one, how would that make Akari and Hina and Momo? I mean, Momo doesn't know she was an infant when he left. But how would that make Akari and Hina feel? For Hina may have been too young to really fully understand, but for Akari, who was 19, she's like, oh, we aren't good enough. We are your children. This wasn't good enough to stay around. So I'm sure Akari has this like shame associated with herself because she's like, oh, my dad didn't think we were a good enough family and we were good enough kids to stick around. Like, what an asshole. Like, he just leaves them with their grandfather, and he's like, I got a new girlfriend, bye. Like, why couldn't the girlfriend stay with them? Unless the girlfriend was like, I don't want to get in a relationship with a guy that has the baggage of 3 kids and a dead wife. And he's like, well, then I'll just leave him and go with you. Like, that says something about him and his character, that he would up and leave 3 children who were grieving the loss of their mom, got with a new woman and has a kid with them and has nothing to do with Hina and all of them. And we don't know if Akari, like, we don't know the situation in great detail. So we don't know if Akari stopped communication with him, if Akari told him to leave, if Akari was like, you're not invited here, if Akari has tried to get a hold of him and he's the one that's like, I don't want anything to do with you. We don't know that situation. So, and we're the outsiders, and I'm glad that Ray doesn't push it. He's like, oh, not my place. You've said enough. I know now why he's not here. Got it. But I think that speaks volumes for his character, for him to leave them after their mom died. And, well, and here's the thing. We don't know if he left them after the mom died. We don't know. We know that he left, got a new girlfriend, has a family, and they have a half sibling somewhere. But we don't know if he left with the new girlfriend before the mom died or after the mom died. I mean, both scenarios are really bad, but I think it would be worse if he left after the mom died. Because it's like you have 3 kids struggling to make ends meet. And it could be the scenario, to play devil's advocate, it could be the scenario that he and their mom were estranged and they just weren't having a good relationship and they divorced and he moved on with another woman and had a kid. And then when the mom died, he's like, I've got this new family. I'm not coming back in, which is still a dick move because you had 3 children that are your children that you should try to support in this time when they're grieving their mom's loss and you just kind of ditched them. Still a bad thing, but at least there's some context there. Whereas if the mom died and he just left them after that to get with this new woman and start a new family and just left them all behind, no, like that's awful. And if he tried to make the excuse of, oh, well, you remind me of your mom and I'm so sad that I was like, no, bullshit. Like you still work through that. And then if you need to move on afterwards, you can find, a girlfriend or a new wife and she can be part of the family. Like, what? No. So it's just a bad scenario. And I was thinking it was going to be bad. The fact that I thought for a second he just left them and had a salary job and had nothing to do. But the fact that he not only got a new girlfriend who he could be married to now, but also has a kid with them, and he's with that child, but not the 3 daughters that he had before, I think speaks volumes about his character already. Like with that, you didn't even have, Akari said 3 sentences about him, and we instantly have a painting of how his character is. Awesome. So that's it. And I like that Ray says she laid it out so it can mean nothing to her. But it clearly means everything. Yeah, the way that she brushes it off, like, oh, it's fine. I don't want to talk about it, but it's fine. That just shows that it deeply affects her. And how could it not? She was abandoned by her dad, and he in no way supports her or her sisters. And that to her, I'm sure feels like he doesn't love them. And what an awful feeling for your parent to just completely abandon you. It would be awful. So I feel so bad for her. And I love that at that moment, Hayashida's like, well, I'm going to go defend her too. Like, I love that Ray's like, wait a minute. No. That's not what we decided. Like, no. I love that Hayashida's like, I'll be a monster teacher. And go to bat for them. And Ray's like, no, wait. They don't even know you. Which is funny. So then, of course, they settle everything. And I like that Hayashida, like, buys Ray the little steam bun on the way home. And he's like, here, kid. I love that in this episode, we got both Ray being supported by Hayashida and supported by Shimada. And Shimada and Hayashida, seeing them in the same episode together. And I'm sure we've had episodes where they've been in the same episode together before. But really seeing them mentoring Ray in this episode specifically, I love the idea that Hayashida is so high energy and just amped all the time. And he's like, well, we'll go do this and we'll go do that. And then after Rei calms him down, he's like, here, kid. Like, you know, whereas Shimada approaches it from a very different way. He's very calm, very grounded, very collected. But he also has his own passion, which we'll talk about in the flashback. But I like the Hayashida and Shimada approach mentoring Rei from two similar but very different angles, which is really neat. I like that a lot. He's like, I've got my pride as a teacher. And I like the Hayashida calls out Rei and he's like, quit being so stubborn and out of step. You'll figure it out. But poor Rei, he looks like he's been crying. He looks like he's just worn out. Like, poor Rei. I feel so bad for him. Like, bless his heart. And then he says, oh, so you want to be needed. He says, you want to be needed and therefore you want to be strong. What's wrong with that? And then I like that he told Rei, take a deep breath and start walking one step at a time. I love it. I love Hayashida giving Rei this encouragement, being like, it's okay to want to be strong and want to help others. That's fine. He's like, that's okay. Everybody wants that in some shape or capacity. But he's like, you can't do it all at once. So you can't get ahead of yourself. You can't get all worked up. You need to just go one step at a time and pace yourself. And that's all you can do. The best thing you can do to support her is just try your best and do it with calm collectiveness. So then I like Yokomizo. I always forget his name, Yokomizo. So far he's been doing good. We had Marita was the guy that Kiriyama faced, and he won. And then we had Kurosawa and Mine is on the other wall there. But he's like, yeah, you've been doing good so far. You won 3 matches in a row, which is great. And that's when we find out that Yamazaki beat Nikaido to go to the newcomer tournament. The thing that sucks about it is that Nikaido collapsed, and that's why he lost. So we don't fully know like what the outcome would have been, but he had to forfeit because he collapsed. And at first, I'm glad that Rei found out all of this, because at first Rei was mad at Nikaido because Nikaido got him all riled up and he's like, you and I are going to create a legend. Like, and all of this makes sense now. The idea that Nikaido wants to be this adventurer. He wants to be this larger than life hero-esque figure. And so he has a rival in Rei. And I love that, Rei gave him this challenge, and Rei's never treated him like a spoiled brat, right? Rei's never, held back against him because of his illness or because of his status or his wealth. And Nikaido loves that, and that's why they're rivals. And so I love that at first Rei's like, well, you got me all riled up and you made me promise. You drilled it into my head over and over again. We were going to face each other. And that's when he hears from Shimada with the chairman that Nikaido can't return from Osaka for a while. He's been admitted to the First Central Hospital there, and he'll be there a while for observation. And then they said apparently it's difficult to move him closer, which is pretty serious. If you can't move someone closer, that's a problem. That means there's some complications. I really like in this moment the chairman, who is super serious. Like, the chairman's always been like, hey, like the whole time. Not in this episode. Nope. He's drop dead serious. And I feel like that's like, Shimada's always been kind of the same the whole time as a character. He's been very consistent, and I like that about him. The chairman gives off very Urahara from Bleach vibes in this episode, where he's been all like sunny and everything's just right as rain. Look at me, I'm a goofball. And then the facade drops when it's something serious like this. And he's like, you get to see the chairman's other side, which is him being very serious and no nonsense. And of course, Shimada and him are like, shit, Rei heard. And the thing that's so interesting is I think that in the past, before this episode and before everything Rei's gone through to develop as a character, the season 1 Rei would not have been appropriate to approach with this sort of news. He would not have handled it well. But Rei has gained some maturity over the course of this series, where now it's like, no, he can handle it. He's got this. It's just a matter of like, what do we do with this? So I feel like at first the chairman's like, we shouldn't tell him anything. And Shimada's like, I promised Nikaido I wouldn't tell him. But Rei's being persistent about it. He's like, what are you talking about? And so, of course, they're both like, well, shit, we can't talk to him. I like that Shimada looks a little bit more open to talking to him. The chairman's like, this is not any of my business to begin with. The chairman really feels like an outsider. Whereas Shimada's the one that has all the knowledge. And Shimada's like, oh, it's nothing major. You know, he wasn't well to begin with. I like they focus on him smiling, and it's in the shadows, which shows how fake it is in that moment. He's like, oh, well, he wasn't fine to begin with. And so, you know, the semifinals just made his condition worse. Like, the chairman tries to, like, be like, hey, let's go get that drink. Let's leave the situation. Let's leave Rei and not worry about it. And so they start to walk away. And I think in the past, Rei would have been like, he would have let them go and went home and stewed about it. But now Rei's like, no, I'm going to advocate for myself. Nikaido's my best friend. We're best friendos. I want to know what's going on. What's happening? And, you know, if this was his usual health downswing, then he'd just get in that stupid big limo and come right back. But this is clearly serious. So he still has rank deciding matches. Like if he's in the hospital, he'll miss those matches and his rank, he's like, isn't that bad? Why aren't you both more concerned about it? And Shimada's like, I'm not really supposed to tell you, you know. He's like, if you ask me and I can't answer, he's like, take the hint. That means this is serious. And I don't need to be the one to tell you about this. And he's like, and if I'm not telling you about it, it probably means that Nikaido doesn't want me to tell you about it. So it's like, he's like, read the room. He's trying to be like, and I like that Shimada smiles with it. He's like, you know, come on, Rei. He's like, read the room. You know why I can't talk to you about it. He's like, you should understand that much. And poor Rei, he's like, the truth is, I'd always kind of guessed it because of how Nikaido acted with Mr. Hanaoka by his side. The beautifully colored, decorated, faintly colored lunches, which is all the bland food that's easy to digest that he has to slowly eat over and over again. The idea of him chewing 30 times per bite so he can digest it. He's like, the truth is I could never bring myself to ask about it. And Nikaido doesn't like talking about it because he doesn't want to seem weak. And he doesn't want people to feel pity for him. Ever since we were kids, he doesn't like being asked about it. He's like, well, in that case, I like that in that moment, he's like, well, in that case, if that's so, then I like that he sticks to it. He's like, could I ask you what the reason itself is along with everything else? He's like, are you able to talk to me about this from your perspective? Since I obviously can't go ask Nikaido because he wouldn't want that. I love Rei advocating for himself. And of course, Shimada's like, well, shit, I could technically do that. And then the chairman's like, I'm out. This is your business. Here's your brother. You take care of things. And Shimada's like, okay, let's go have dinner. I like that Shimada instantly is like, let's go have dinner. You know what? We'll just sit down. We'll talk about it since you want to know. And then we get the flashback. I love that we finally get a flashback going back to Nikaido and Shimada and their teacher. Remember when I thought Soya was their teacher and everybody in the comments were like, he's not their teacher. And I was like, would you just slow your roll and let me figure it out for myself, you trollops? You know, I love when people get really like frustrated in the comments and rather than just let the content creator find out when the show gives them answers, they're like, well, actually, and it's like, well, if you just stop and let the person figure it out, they'll put two and two together on their own. It'll be all right. But whatever. So I feel like so Shimada was supposedly the last disciple that this older gentleman took on. Shimada had aged quite a bit by the time that Nikaido was taken on. Like, he seems like he's in his 20s by the time that he gets, or at least his early 20s by the time he's taken on by this instructor. And he was really young when he learned from the instructor. So this guy hadn't taken on a disciple in quite some time. But he's like, you got sick last year, so why now? And I feel like this old shogi master, he's like, well, I found an interesting child. And I feel like he took him on because they can relate. He's going through a sickness. He sees this kid going through a sickness. He sees this kid being he can see, I'm sure for this older man, this gentleman that's a shogi master, or at least he's, a master that can take on disciples. I don't know if he's a shogi master or not, but I feel as if he is able to take on Nikaido because he sees like a kindred spirit. Whereas Nikaido talks about how shogi enables him to be human despite his limitations. I feel like this old shogi mentor, this teacher, is like, I feel the same way. I'm going through sickness. I'm elderly, but shogi still allows me to play and be human and be in some capacity on the same level as those in my youth. So I feel like they found a kindred spirit, and he's like, that's why I'm taking this kid on, because we both share this passion and we both share this like otherwise debilitating condition. But little Nikaido, also, it's good to note that you can't become a professional shogi player unless you have a mentor. So in Rei's case, it was Koda. Koda was his mentor. That enabled him to become a professional player. Makes sense. I wonder who Soya's teacher was. That'd be interesting. But yeah, Harunobu Nikaido with his little sprout of hair looking so cute. And Shimada's like, where have I seen him before? So then we go to the children's tournament. I love that it all goes back around where everything comes full circle. And so the first time that Rei and Nikaido faced each other was at this tournament. Whenever Shimada inadvertently learned about Rei through the scores from him meeting Nikaido, like all of this one little event changed the course of their entire lives, basically. And it's so cool to see like little nodes in history with your own experiences having these connections, right? That's so cool. And so, again, Nikaido, when he shows up, has his butler, has his fancy clothes. He shows up in a fancy car. Everyone there assumes he's just a spoiled rich kid that has nothing else to do, and he's invading their space. And even Shimada kind of has a moment. I think what makes Hayashida and him different is kind of how Shimada judges Nikaido at first. He's like, oh, he's a spoiled rich kid. Why isn't he playing video games? Why is he doing this? And he's like, oh, he'll give up. And he's just wasting his time here. And I like that Shimada kind of has this kind of ugly moment of judging Nikaido, this child. And he's like, I didn't have resources growing up, and I had to fight my way here in the shogi board, and you just show up and get instant access. Like, he judges Nikaido's privilege without knowing Nikaido, and is instantly kind of schooled when he sees Nikaido and Rei's final match and realizes what a good player Nikaido is and how seriously he trains and takes the game. And I love that. I love that even for a character like Shimada, who we appreciate so much and we love, he just kind of like judges Nikaido and then realizes how wrong he was. He's like, I was envious of him since I lived in poverty when I was a kid. And he thinks that Nikaido won't stick with it because it's too hard. And because he doesn't think Nikaido can deal with how hard it is. You know, he didn't grow up in an environment that requires you to be sturdy like Shimada. And then, of course, Shimada has his own conditions, which then allows him to relate to Nikaido as well later on. So, yeah, then Rei Kiriyama, he wins the one little match. And so Nikaido wants to go back to that match from the semifinals. He wants to go back and face Rei again. And that's when he sees that they were an all-out war with them having sitting kings and 185 moves in an elementary school shogi match from earlier than 4th grade. Crazy. And Shimada's kind of blown away by it. I'm sorry, but seeing Nikaido about to collapse and then seeing the butler like holding him and seeing the butler's face in that moment, and usually we can't see his eyes, but seeing them, that's what got me. I was like seeing the butler be with him, and I can't look at that screenshot anymore. It'll make me sad. But yeah, he's like, clearly what I had in my hand was a game record of someone who threw away a happy childhood to the winds. But rather, he didn't have a happy childhood to begin with. Like, oh, he never even had the kind of childhood that could be flung away. From him having to suffer. Oh. Anyway, so Nikaido lives in this mansion, has all these shogi books, and he studies that so hard. And then Shimada comes and visits him while he's in bed and practicing. And he's just such a sweet kid. And he's so excited to have someone not only there, but someone to play with him. And he gets Treasure Island and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, like all these adventure books. Oh. I love the butler showing off by pouring the tea. That's really cute. But yeah, he's like, him playing with Nikaido is so sweet. Oh. And he's like, he would always give everything he had, and beating him required much effort. But one day he took it easy on him to try to make him feel better. And that's when Nikaido's like, if I'm treated as a weakling even when I play shogi, then where am I supposed to live? That line, where am I supposed to live? He's like, where am I supposed to be a normal human if not playing shogi? Because it's like the only space I have. I'm like, just completely tears me up from the inside. Yeah, oh my god. And Shimada, of course, is like, well, shit. I was not ready to cry over Nikaido in this episode, but here we are. His disease is incurable, and it would be with him the rest of his life. And I like that he's like, I'm sorry. I'll never do it again, I promise. Like, just breaks my heart. And so the idea of Nikaido, and I love that the show shows us, like, this beautiful mansion with all of these elaborate things that people would just instantly covet. But for Nikaido, then you cut from this elaborate mansion to Nikaido looking out the window, saying his days went by enduring, holding his breath, hoping his condition wouldn't deteriorate. That symbolism of Nikaido wanting to go into the outside world, and not necessarily outside world, but him wanting to be normal and not be held down by his disability, is... it just makes you want to cry. I'm like, can't, y'all, can't. So anyway, and he can't play sports. The only place where he could run about as a hero were the shogi board. And so that's the moment that Shimada gives him the game records from the match. At first I was like, oh, no big deal. But then when you realize what it is, and Nikaido's like, please don't tell Kiriyama about my disease. He's like, to get stronger, a rival is essential. He doesn't realize it himself, but he's a kind person. I'm like, oh, shut up, Nikaido. Quit it. Go make her cry. He's like, and he's unstable. If he knew about this, he'd lose his touch. And then I wouldn't be able to get any better. Oh. And I think that Nikaido doesn't realize how much Rei's grown. He got a little, like, sliver of it, but I don't think he's fully realized how much Rei has grown. But to Nikaido, it's like it's a two-way street. He's like, in order to get better, you have to get a rival. And so he's like, I have to be Rei's rival. But not only that, I need Rei to be my rival because Rei doesn't judge me. He doesn't treat me any differently. A rival doesn't treat you with, glass slippers or, on thin ice or anything. He's like, Rei treats me like a normal person. And if Rei knows about my disease and starts to pity me, I won't have a rival. He won't have a rival. We won't get better. And he's like, I need a rival to live. I need some humanity and normalcy. But the game record was 2 pages and it was 138 moves. He was in the inferior position, but he stuck it out. And right as he had turned it around with an upper hand, his opponent had a 3-fold repetition. I wanted to look that up. What is a 3-fold repetition? in shogi. So it says a game can be called a draw when a position occurs 4 times in a row with the same player to move each time. So it's called Senichit. It's a move for 1,000 days. As a repetition draw is a rule in shogi stating that a game will end in a draw if the same position is repeated 4 times during a game, as long as repetitions do not involve checks. Oh, so like a stalemate. So basically his opponent had a 3-fold repetition, and near the ending of that final play. So basically, Nikaido had been losing. He started to get the upper hand again, but then his opponent did the 3 repetitions, and if a 4th one happened, it was going to be a stalemate, and it was going to be a draw. And I don't know how in an official match you choose the winner in a draw, especially for a tournament. But as Nikaido goes to make his other move, he wrung out his soul with only 1 minute allowed per move. And then he collapsed. Oh, that is so brutal. And Ray crying when he sees that, being like, Nikaido gave everything. He gave his all for that match because he wanted to play Ray so badly. Like that moment of Ray crying, I was like, I can't. Y'all, I can't. Oh. And then Shimada, he's like, even so, can you be merciless to Nikaido? I love that Shimada's like, I know, I cried at this too. This was a really sad thing. But the last thing Nikaido wants is for you to pity him. Can you be merciless to him? Get on to him. Be mad at him. Because he wants you to do that. And then Ray's like, and he wipes his tears away and he's like, I'm going to the finals. And Shimada's like, okay, good. So we don't know what the result is, right? I like that we see the Kansai, the shogi hall where the finals are at, and it's all daylight and pretty and everything, and we cut back to them in the rain, running to catch the train. And I love how he describes the rain as silver threads, which I've done that too. He's like, I thought back to that game record. Though he was hesitant, he faltered and flinched. He had faith in himself, so he aimed for the promised land and raced ahead like a fireball. And seeing all those moments, and him on the ship, oh my God, with the rainbows around him. It almost makes it seem like he's dying, which I was like, please show, do not make us have that moment. Please no. No, please don't do that. But he said it read like an adventure novel. Yeah. It's like, even though Nikaido doesn't believe that he's living out this heroic journey, his games in shogi are like that. And this read like as such. Y'all, I can't. So we have the final of the newcomer tournament coming up, and it's going to be Ray versus Yamazaki. I'm not ready, and we still have Hina and the whole situation with them, with Akari, all of that. Oh man. I'm super excited to hear your comments down below, but I don't know if I can talk any further about this without sobbing, so go figure. Anyway, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back again real soon with more March Comes In Like a Lion. Bye.